Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijacharya Astoru Shishimata's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijacharya Astoru Shishimata's Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Swami Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda Ki Nam Acharya Sridas Thakur Ki प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिव सरी गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की वृंदावन नवदीप धाम की गंगा माय जमुना माय की भक्ति देवी तुलसी देवी की साम बैठ भक्त वृंद की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, chapter 19, text number 12. Tamatrir Bhagavan Aikshat Dvara Manam Vihayasa Amuktam Eva Pankandam Yo Dharme Dharma Vibrama Tamatrir Bhagavan Aikshat Dvara Manam Vihayasa Amuktam Eva Pankandam Yo Dharme Dharma Vibrama Tamatrir Bhagavan Aikshat Dvara Manam Vihayasa Amuktam Eva Pankandam Yo Dharme Dharma Vibrama. Tamatrir Bhagavan Aikshat Dvara Manam Vihayasa Amuktam Eva Pankandam Yo Dharme Dharma Vibrama. Tamatrir Bhagavan Aikshat Dvara Manam Vihayasa Amuktam Eva Pankandam Yo Dharme Dharma Vibrama. Tamatrir Bhagavan Aikshat Dvara Manam Vihayasa Amuktam Eva Pankandam Yo Dharme Dharma Vibrama. Word for word. Tam, King Indra. Atri, the sage Atri. Bhagavan, most powerful. Aikshat, could see. Dvara Manam, moving very hastily. Vihayasa, in outer space. Amuktam Eva, like a liberated person. Pankandam, imposter. Ya, one who. Adharme, in irreligion. Dharma, religion. Vibrama, mistaking. Translation. When King Indra was taking away the horse, he dressed himself to appear as a liberated person. Actually, this dress was a form of cheating, for it falsely created an impression of religion. When Indra went into outer space in this way, the great sage Atri saw him and understood the whole situation. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The word Pankanda used in this verse is sometimes pronounced Pasanda. Both these words indicate an impostor who presents himself as a very religious person, but in actuality is sinful. Indra took up the saffron-colored dress as a way of cheating others. The saffron dress has been misused by many impostors who present themselves as liberated persons or incarnations of God. In this way, people are cheated. As we have mentioned many times, the conditioned soul has a tendency to cheat. Therefore, this quality is visible in a person like King Indra. It is understood that even King Indra is not liberated from the clutches of material contamination. Thus the words amuktam eva, meaning as if he were liberated, are used. The saffron dress worn by a sannyasi announces to the world that he has renounced all worldly affairs and is simply engaged in the service of the Lord. Such a devotee is actually a sannyasi or liberated person. In Bhagavad Gita 6.1 it is said, Anasrita karma phalam karyam karma karotiya sasanyasi cha yogi cha naniragnir na chakriya. One who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life, and he is the true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no work. In other words, one who offers the results of his activities to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is actually a sannyasi and yogi. Cheating sannyasis and yogis have existed since the time of Prithu Maharaja's sacrifice. This cheating was very foolishly introduced by King Indra. In some ages, such cheating is very prominent, and in other ages, not so prominent. It is the duty of a sannyasi to be very cautious because, as stated by Lord Chaitanya, Sanyasire alpa chidra sarva loka gaya. A little spot in a sannyasi's character will be magnified by the public. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 12, chapter 12, text 51. Therefore, unless one is very sincere and serious, he should not take up the order of sannyas. One should not use this order as a means to cheat the public. It is better not to take up sannyas in the age of Kali, because provocations are very strong in this age. Only a very exalted person, advanced in spiritual understanding, should attempt to take up sannyas. One should not adopt this order as a means of livelihood or for some material purpose. The text again, I'll just read the text again and then we can just go the verse again. When King Indra was taking away the horse, he dressed himself to appear as a liberated person. Actually, this dress was a form of cheating, for it is falsely created an impression of religion. When Indra went into outer space in this way, the great sage Atri saw him and understood the whole situation. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is making many points. Cheating, about sannyasi, the dress code, the different levels of bhakti. There's various points that were made on the purport. And how do you see impostors in this world? And talking about King Indra's position, that he was in one sense responsible for this propensity to cheat, which exists. So cheating is, in all phases of life, we ourselves go through the process of cheating sometime, either in spiritual life or material life. And when I was reading the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam last night, it was a very interesting verse where Prabhupada writes in the purport that sometimes Lord Krishna, creates certain situations for enjoyment for people that are maybe perhaps very much lusty. And he was talking about a person who's playing tennis, especially females when they're playing tennis. So these are arranged by demonic people, these so-called sports, so that the girl is bouncing the ball and the man is attracted. And Prabhupada writes in the purport that the purpose of such sporting is to see the bodily construction of the beautiful girl and enjoy subtle sex life. So this sometimes happens. This demonic sex mentality of material enjoyment is sometimes encouraged by so-called yogis, who encourage the public to sex life in different varieties, and at the same time advertise that if one meditates on a certain manufactured mantra, one can become God within 6 months. So the public wants to be cheated, so therefore, Krishna, he creates such cheaters to misrepresent and delude the people. It's like a father, satisfying different children who have different desires. That's how it really works. So that's quite interesting about cheating. And when we may read in the scriptures about cheating, but sometimes you find there's also a level of diplomacy in devotees. And diplomacy is not bad. It could be regarded as devotional service, but depending on one's position, where the person is situated. If one is diplomatic, like N. Prabhupada quoted different examples in a purport in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, especially Sanatan Goswami, who cheated the keeper in the prison house because he wanted to go and be with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he said so many things, like you're such a religious person, So he was very nice to the person. But also like Raghunath Das also cheated his priest and left home to satisfy the Lord. So sometimes people cheat for higher purposes, and that has to be also understood. But it must be for the Lord, because such cheating was necessary for a great cause. And as Prabhupada writes in his purports, and there's no loss for any party in such a transcendental fraud. There's no loss. But then we read in the scriptures that in Kali Yuga, sannyas is prohibited, because people in the age of Kali are all Sudras, and they cannot follow these rules and regulations of sannyas life. And you find that sannyasis, sometimes in other sampradayas, we may also have that problem, that sometimes they have private relationships with women. So this is abominable situation in this age. And people do dress themselves as sannyasis in many other religions, and they like renunciants, but they engage in all sinful life. Not necessarily people following the Vedic culture. People also follow renunciation from other paths, but they misuse their position, they misuse their dress. But in Kali Yuga, if the injunction is not to accept sannyas, but we have also sannyasis. That may be the question, right? We also have sannyasis, but Lord Chaitanya was saying that no, we should be careful. We should not accept sannyas life, but rather we should take to the chanting of the holy name. That's what he was propagating, because we have a constant companion with us, Krishna, because Krishna is non-different from his name, and we have a constant companion with us in our heart. And hearing is more important than thinking. Because thinking may disturb you, may agitate you, and you may be disturbed. But if one concentrates on hearing, he will be forced to associate with the sound, which is also difficult. Because sometimes we're singing, then people are not singing also. To hear the sound vibration of Krishna. And as we said, the sound vibration is different from Krishna. The holy name is not different from Krishna. And therefore, sannyasis, they have a constant companion, should be the holy name. And well, their servants and other people and other associates, but their constant companion should be the holy name. And we see that even we experience sometimes some temporary fall down by devotees who's practicing Krishna consciousness. And how do we look at it? How do we see it? And there was a devotee in Mexico, his name was Hanuman Prabhu, who had been a sannyasi, and unfortunately in the course of his preaching activities, he had fallen and got married. And that at that time it wasn't much heard of. So when this happened, the devotees were a little disturbed. But then when he came to see Srila Prabhupada, he said, Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya rejected Chota Haridas because he glanced at a woman in a lustful way. I'm afraid because I also lusted after a woman, perhaps you are going to reject me. And Srila Prabhupada looked at him and he paused, like in a very thoughtful way. Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Lord. He can spread this movement anyway. I'm just an ordinary servant of God and I need help. I cannot do what he can do. And since you have rendered so much service to me, how can I reject you? So Srila Prabhupada, that even people had fallen from the process, he looked at it in a very merciful way. And as devotees, we should also be like that. We should look at things in a merciful way. Some people may not even have the qualifications for these things that we're talking about, and many people don't, but still, then the question is, then why did Prabhupada give sannyas to people? Because in one, there's a case of emergency, and to spread the movement, we have to take that risk. And the other reason is, the spiritual master puts the disciple in the best position as possible because he's marginal and he can fall either way. So as devotees we have to understand that, because we may point out shortcomings in people from time to time, and but a little thinking, a little realizing that we also have those shortcomings, because in most cases it's projection. In most cases. Because if you genuinely want to help the person, it's done in such a loving way that the other person won't be affected. He will appreciate the help. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that Sharlata or simplicity is the first qualification of a Vaishnava. And whereas duplicity or cunning behavior is a great offense against the principle of devotional service. So duplicitous behavior also is not good. We may sometimes be duplicitous. Like, the Krishna kills that demon Bakasura. These two beaks are bifurcated or ripped apart. That's the word Prabhupada used. So what does that mean? Because sometimes we are two-faced. It's like that, duplicitous. So that's not good. So as one advances in Krishna consciousness, he becomes, disgusted with the material attachment and becomes more attached to the service of the Lord. But Prabhupada, in a purport in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in the Antilila, he said, if one is not factually detached from material activities, but still proclaims himself advanced in devotional service, he is cheating. No one will be happy to see such behavior. So we all have the tendency to cheat because, we have those defects. We all have it. And gradually we should overcome it. We cheat in different circumstances, in different phases of our life. Cheating in personal relationships. Srila Prabhupada often emphasized honesty and integrity in personal relationships. Cheating in relationship is considered a serious breach of trust and is condemned. And this is highlighted that deceit in personal relationship leads to karmic consequences, and it disrupts our spiritual progress. And these are given, in Prabhupada's books. When you read more into his books and dive deeply into it, and you'll see how it affects our lives. Cheating in devotional service. We spoke about C.C. Raghunath Ki. Yeah, and Prabhupada warns us about, pretending to be a devotee while engaging in deceitful activities. But he stressed that genuine devotion involves sincerity and honesty. And cheating or duplicity undermines spiritual progress. So, you could point fingers to everybody, but rather just become more introspective and see that maybe I also have false devotion. And generally when people point out sometimes your shortcomings, we try not to challenge it. We try not to challenge the shortcoming. I have personal experience of that in many cases. And when you remain silent, then gradually the other person realizes the mistake in due course of time. That's how it works. Like cheating the spiritual authorities, Prabhupada is also firm about, respecting the instructions of the spiritual master, the institution. So many different, the psychological effects of cheating is like guilt, anxiety, so many different areas, and how it impacts on your self-esteem, and you struggle with an internal conflict. These are things that happens, to all of us. And this one I really found interesting, that I was looking last night also about Kedarnath, who's Bhaktivinoda Thakur, was trying his best to secure employment, so he applied for the post of accountant with a sugar merchant, who attempted to give him some training. That's another thing, you should be given training. So the young man was surprised to see that cheating was involved. He said, when I purchased a large quantity of sugar, I obtained an extra sack of sugar. So what will you do if you get an extra sack of sugar? Came to the temple. What will you do? Will you return it? Will you think, no, I should use it in Krishna's service? What will you do? You use it in Krishna's service? What do you think? You can, it works both ways, but best to return it. Because that person will realize your honesty. And that will be his Krishna consciousness, by appreciating your honesty. See, we may not look at it like, oh, we go cut flowers from other people's garden and things, but that's not recommended either. That's not what we meant to do. Okay, so he said, so I noticed this and I considered it irreligious to cheat. I therefore informed the merchant. The merchant advised him that it would be better for him to get a job as a teacher, that business life would be difficult for one of his principals. Because in business life you cheat. What do you think about that? Now this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So it's there, and there's so much could be said about cheating in different areas, a dishonesty in leadership. Prabhupada sometimes criticized dishonest practice in leadership and governance within the society, within our society, and even the political realm. He was criticizing dishonest practices. If Prabhupada firmly believed that leaders should act with integrity and transparency. So many, many examples can be given, and I won't give you all. I have many, many more to speak about. But earlier on we were speaking about Raghunath Das Goswami, Ramananda Rai. We didn't speak about Ramananda Rai, how he influenced Lord Chaitanya to see the king Pratapa Rudra. Because they had this knowledge how to deal with people. Because they're mainly government officials. And government officials knows about diplomacy and tact and these kind of things. So they all worked in government circles. And in that purport, as I said, Prabhupada writes in the last two lines, the conclusion is that diplomacy used for the service of the Lord is a form of devotional service. It's a form of devotional service. But then, we ask ourselves, how devotees become deceitful? They become deceitful. There's actually three categories, according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the Mana Shiksha, Instructions to the Mind. And we must constantly read this book. It's very interesting. When one indulges in sense gratification in the name of satisfying the Supreme Lord, then one is considered deceitful, because instead of serving pure-hearted devotees of the Lord, what he does? He serves rich, influential materialists. And he busies himself in accumulation of wealth beyond his needs. It's very interesting. With the excuse of educating himself, he developed attachments to speculation and logic. And such a person, he put on the robes of a renunciant. And that was the verse he's speaking about. That King Indra puts the robe of a renunciant and steals the horse. Putting on the robes of a renunciant, he strives for worldly acclaim and honor. So like in our society, we also change our dress at some point in time. And changing your dress, you get permission to do that. You find out from the Vaishnavas whether you could do it. It's not just done whimsically. We get confirmation from the spiritual master. But then when you see somebody put a saffron robe, then you say, well, how is he doing that? Then you'll start thinking of all the bad things that he did. Isn't it? That's what happens. It's a fact. Then you get another level, that's called this Swanishta Sadhaka, a practitioner on that level. Then you get another type of person, becomes deceitful when he makes an external show of strict adherence and dedication to spiritual life. Very strict. But inwardly he is attracted to material subject completely unrelated to Krishna. That's another type of, it's called parinishta. And he prefers association with worldly minded people than associating with saintly souls. That's the second type of person. But listen to the third one. This is called Niripeksha Sadhaka. He considers himself to be a very elevated devotee. And he exploits the renunciant's dress and status. And what he does, he looks down upon other devotees as if they were inferior. See, Indra is the king of heaven, but you see in many times he was still reinstated. You know, he was always given higher positions. You notice it? What is the reason for that? I was trying to find out myself. And he exploits the renunciant's dress. He collects objects of wealth in far excess of the basic requirements for life of renunciation. Therefore, if you get too much, as a renunciant, it's not good. And then everything is spoiled. Then he leaves the temple to collect funds and donations only to remain in close contact with materialists. My God, And then he's always in anxiety about collecting funds. The anxiety is there. Yet he covers how does he cover it? His deceit with a show of devotion. So such a person is over attached to his dress, position, rules and regulation of the renounced order, and thus neglect the main purpose of spiritual life, which is to develop attachment for Krishna. So here we find that, King Prithu is doing something, some horse sacrifice, and horses are the most beautiful animal on the planet. You're aware of that, right? The horses are very beautiful, And Prithu is doing this. King Prithu is doing the sacrifice, but the horse is being stolen by King Indra. And Atri Rishi is watching it being taken away. So he plays the role of a sannyasi. And you can't really attack a sannyasi, harm him in any way. We shouldn't do that. But we have different levels of sannyasi. And the topmost level is the Paramahamsa, the topmost stage, position. In the renounced order of 4 stages: Kuti Chaka, Bahudaka, Pravyacharya and Paramahamsa. So according to the Vedic system, if one accepts a renounced order, but he lives outside his village, and then he gets food from his home. This is called, like the very preliminary stage, it's called Kuti Chaka stage. You get it? Then when he further advances, he don't accept anything from his home. He become like a bumblebee. Like he go from flower to flower, like bumblebees go flower to flower for honey. So that's the second stage. He goes from place to place, and he'll beg a little and just survive. That's called the Bahudaka stage. When he's further experienced, he travels all over the world. So there are various stages here in sannyas. We may just apply the one, we're talking about, when you take sannyas, you just travel the world. That level we know. Get it? When a sannyasi is still moving, he travels and he preaches the glory all over the world. That is called Pravijaka Acharya stage. Then the Paramahamsa stage, he finishes his preaching work. He sits down in a solitary place, in the holy place, and he focuses on his own spiritual life. And that's the Paramahamsa stage. So there is different levels, but also you have a Kshetra Sannyas. You know what Kshetra Sannyas is? Kshetra Sannyas. Just like when Gadadhar Pandit wanted to go with Lord Chaitanya, he forbade him. He said, no. Don't give up your Kshetra Sannyas. You must just stay there. So when one takes Kshetra Sannyas, he leaves his household life and he goes to a place of pilgrimage devoted to Lord Vishnu. Like maybe Vrindavan, Mayapur. You can come to the Hare Krishna temple here also. But Kshetra Sannyas, in these places, you can live alone or with your family. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur considered Kshetra Sannyas to be the preferable Vanapras situation in this age of Kali. So in this age of Kali, he considers the Kshetra Sannyas the real Vanaprastha stage. It's quite interesting. That's in the Madhya Leela purport. You can read about it. And then when one takes sannyas, he dedicates his life fully to the Lord. His mind is fully engaged, body, mind, and words. And one should follow like that order of a sannyasi with mind, body, and words. But then you see that Lord Nityananda broke Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's staff, the sannyas danda. Because in the Paramahamsa stage, you need not carry a danda. At that stage, you don't carry a danda. There is no need to accept a staff. And therefore he broke it into 3, mind, body, and he broke it. Yeah, arguable. That's arguable. Yeah, but there's other versions to it also. But yeah, that's another point. Thank you for that. Because what Lord Nityananda was proving that he's above the rules and regulations. That's why he broke it into those pieces. He's above the rules and regulations. But that's explained by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So, Prabhupada had many disciples, females disciple, male disciples. But over the years, there's always some neglect to the females. And but Prabhupada really loved his daughters. That's how he called them. And one time there was Harisuri was saying that, anyway, one time Prabhupada had a cold and at Harisuri had given a piece of cloth, orange silk cloth, to make a handkerchief. And the devotee was saying, she was a neophyte, and she was sewing for Radha Madhava, and she thought, I can sew it quickly. But in her heart, she knows she didn't do it well. Sometimes devotees, even when they dress the deity, they'll come in front of the deity, they're looking at the deity, they're thinking, hey, maybe I should have done it like this, maybe I should have done it like that. Because they want to serve better. They want to serve better. So then anyway, she gave it to Harisuri Prabhu, and after many years, Harisuri Prabhu, she asked Harisuri Prabhu, do you remember that little orange handkerchief you gave me to sew for Prabhupada? This little scrap silk. He said, yes, I did. And then she wanted to know whether Prabhupada actually used it. And then Hari Suri says, well, Prabhupada really loved that handkerchief. But it was so horribly sewn, but he loved it. And she was quite surprised because she had been lamenting for 43 years. She was remembering that I really didn't do a good job. I sewed it so poorly. And then he narrated, he said, there was a lot of sannyasis in the room. And at that time, one sannyasi was very proud. He was telling Prabhupada of what an excellent sannyasi he was. You get this because, I mean, I had experiences of this at times. People telling you how good they are. I told Prabhupada, I don't talk to women, as if to say, you must have nothing to do with women, as sannyasi have nothing to do. I don't look at women. I'm very fixed in my sannyas vows. You get people like this? Yes, you do. But, I mean, for a male, if his disciples are females, what do you expect him to do? Not to talk to them. I mean, I'm asking. Huh? Yes, we have to interact with the person. We have to give them instructions. But he's seeing them as his daughter. So some person may see sometimes somebody else interact and say, oh, what he's doing? What kind of renunciation is that? So that means we are polluted like how King Indra was. So we have to be very careful. So when this person was saying that, Prabhupada was listening very quietly, he put his head down, not commenting, and then it seemed like maybe he was like little affected by it, and then he handed Prabhupada that handkerchief. And he addressed the sannyasis in the room and he said, I always accept service from my daughters. I always accept service. So it's quite interesting that how Prabhupada dealt with different people. The other point that's in the purport is about a liberated person, where the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, I'll read the verse that's quoted from the Gita, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life. And he is the true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. So the true renunciant or the true mystic performs his duties but renounces the fruit. That is Krishna's request of Arjuna. So that phrase we read, lights no fire, means for Brahmins they have their prescribed duties to do daily fire sacrifice. And Krishna here is explaining that one who is unadvanced thinks, I have knowledge, I don't have to perform my duty. But no, rather an advanced soul performs his duties, but with detachment. That's what it means. So that verse is quoted there in the purport that we just read today. And then in the next, in 927, you find Yad karosi, yad asnasi, yad juhosi, dadasi, yad Yatapasyasi kuntayas tat kurusvamad arpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer and give away, and whatever austerities you perform, O son of Kunti, do that as an offering unto me. That offering is made to Krishna. We see that. So in what level is this? Is it Nishkam Karma Yoga? Is it Karma Yoga? What is it? What is Nishkam Karma Yoga? When you are attached to the specific work you perform. Is that Nishkam Karma Yoga? But you're not attached to the fruits. But Krishna is saying, whatever you do, just do it as an offering. Because it's not on the highest level of devotion, because first you perform the activity and then you offer to Krishna. You do what you want to do and then you offer. You get it? So, but bhakti is different. Devotion is different. You surrender to the order of the Guru and Krishna. So there is no distinction between the activity and its fruit. Everything is offered in surrender to Krishna's lotus feet. But then, Srila Prabhupada confirmed this about this verse. It refers to Karma Yoga in 1974 in a lecture. Krishna is meant for Paramahamsas and Muni. Very, very exalted person. Yoga means contact or having connection. Bhakti Yoga means directly connecting with Krishna or God. Other yogas are not directly connected. When there is Karma Yoga, it is adulterated. It is not pure. Karma Yoga means yad karosi, yad asnasi, yad juhosi, dadasi yat. In the beginning, one cannot take to pure bhakti. Therefore, Karma Yoga is recommended. People are interested in different types of work. So therefore, Krishna says, yad karosi, never mind, whatever you're doing. So how does it become Karma Yoga? Now, kurushvam tad mad arpanam, you give it to me. Krishna says, all right, go on, you are attached to business. You go on doing that. But the money earned out of your business, you give to me. This is Karma Yoga. It doesn't matter. Whatever you are doing, but the ultimate result, you give to me. But the verse after that in the Gita explains what Nishkam Karma Yoga is. I'll just skip the Sanskrit. In this way, you will be freed from the bondage to work and its auspicious and inauspicious results. With your mind fixed on me, in this principle of renunciation, you will be liberated and come to me. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains, not that he only becomes liberated, but he achieves vimukti. And vimukti means liberated. And also he used another word. He becomes not only vimukti or liberated, he becomes exceptional. Visista, among those who are liberated. And he comes into my proximity in order to serve me directly. That's how it works. It's very systematic. And Balavidya Bhusan give more or less the same points. And he says, slightly different, you not only become mukta, liberated from material activities, but vimukta and come to me. You become exceptional among those who are liberated and come near me in order to serve me directly. More or less the same thing. So we'll stop here. I'm always on time. So if there's any comments or questions you'd like to ask or raise some points, if anybody want to make some additions. Yes, your microphone to Ranga. It's quite an interesting subject matter. I was just looking at it last night. Ram Govindra Maharaj was meant to give the class, so he was not. His flight is delayed, so he'll be
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you for that wonderful class.
Thank
I was just thinking, devotees in ISKCON Assam, what renounced, and may engage other people in Krishna consciousness. So sometimes the male may engage the female like that. But in the public's eye view, it's basically wrong for devotees to do that, especially those who are wearing saffron. So I was just thinking, loka vichara is very important, public opinion, So therefore, we should tread very carefully also, on how we actually reciprocate with the opposite sex.
Yeah, that's true. And we find that even our devotees are criticized on social media on these things very much. But in some instances, they may not understand the person also. Like one very senior sannyasi in our movement, he just loves people and interacts with people very freely, but he's a very fatherly person according to me. And this is how I've always looked at him. And whenever people brought up his name, that this kind of thing, that he's interacting freely, I said, well, you don't understand him. You don't know that he loves children, he loves people. So it's not that he's breaking the principles. But yes, public sentiment is also important, but also understanding the person is also important.
Exactly.
It makes sense, right? Because many of our devotees are correct, and that's why I've switched myself off from the Facebook and things like that. And people are sometimes criticized by their own disciples also, spiritual masters. And that's not very good, that's not good at all. But that's how I looked at things. That's how I always looked at it. Yeah, but thank you for that. Because Loka Vichar is an important factor, and Prabhupada speaks about that, public sentiment. And we have to be cautious all the same time. Thank you for that, Rangadevi. Anybody else would like to say anything? No. Okay. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.